Baseball, football, basketball.
Not hockey.
That's right.
The number one weekly sports talk show on Wayne Host TV is back for its 9th installment.
We've got news on Tom Brady, the Super Bowl, the Yankees, LeBron James, and many more.
And it's all coming to you next on Rico and Hook.
So to start things off, the Super Bowl is this Sunday. And on the subject, so which QB is going to be the best in the Super Bowl between Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts?
I mean, so you got to look at both teams' options in the receiving core. I mean, obviously, you got the best tight end in the league, Travis Kelce, on the side of Patrick Mahomes, but you got the young up-and-coming star on the side of Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. So I think it can go either way, but, if you're going with, someone who's got experience in the Super Bowl, two-time player in the Super Bowl, I'm going with Patrick Mahomes. He's been there before. He's going up against a tough Eagles defense, but I mean, with options like Juju, options like Travis Kelce, I think he's going to shine the most out of the two. What do you think?
I mean, I definitely agree. I think Patrick Mahomes, obviously the experience in the playoffs in general matters, and we talked about previously how Jalen Hurts seemed to not play the best of competition. Mahomes just had like a really tough game versus the Bengals in the conference championship round. Obviously been there twice already. So Mahomes knows what he's doing in this game, and he somehow always comes through in those big moments. And as we said, we're going to talk about Tom Brady. Our predictions got completely shattered when he retired. So now what's next for Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I mean, like you said he was going to the Raiders. I said he was going to the Patriots. Who would have known he's going to Fox Sports for 10 years, $375 million? But I mean, going off of what you said, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got to look to free agency right now because I don't think there's going to be a guy that's going to shine at the quarterback position for them in the draft. I mean, you've got players like Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, but I think they're all going top 10, and that's just not going to fall for the Buccaneers unless they try to trade up, which I don't see happening. So, obviously, you would like your boy Danny Dimes to be back with the Giants, but, between him and other quarterbacks like Geno Smith, I think the Buccaneers have to look to a quarterback in free agency rather than the draft. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see a guy like Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo going down there for a year or two, winning a couple games. I still think they have a good enough team, like around them in general, to make the playoffs again, especially in their weak division in the AFC South. But in general, I think the Bucs will be all right without Brady. But I think Derek Carr, in my opinion, is the best option for them.
Yeah, and like I said before, free agency is a big topic of discussion right now after the Super Bowl. Obviously, the offseason starts. Who do you think is going to be the best available free agent in the NFL this offseason?
Well, let's hope he doesn't hit free agency, but Saquon Barkley will be the best guy in the market if he does hit free agency. And I think there is going to be an issue with the Giants not wanting to give him that top running back salary. Obviously, injuries early on in his career. Played finally a good full healthy season, back to his rookie year, best two seasons, his rookie year and this last year. He's looking around up to $14 million. The Giants are only looking at like 12.5, 13. So he does want to be paid as the best running back in the league, and to be honest, I don't blame him after his last season performance.
I mean, I personally think that the Giants have to re-sign Saquon.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, there's no shot that they're not going to go after him, pay top dollar to get him. I mean, he's been their running back for the past, few years now. He's been an all-star, all-around, just a great running back. So if they don't go after him and try to re-sign him, I just can't see Saquon really playing for another team other than the Giants. But, you got to look at some teams that kind of need a running back that are going to throw top dollar at him, just like the Giants. So I agree with you that he's going to be the best available free agent, but I still think that the Giants need to go out and re-sign him, and there's a real possibility that he's not going to be a free agent if they try to re-sign him this offseason.
Yeah, and let's stay with the Giants. T. Higgins, trade rumors circling around the Giants looking for a wide receiver this offseason. Obviously, Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton, number one and number two receiver, is not a very good thing. They looked at a guy like T. Higgins, who I'm rooting for to come to the Giants, but another name like DJ Moore has been thrown out there, and they can always look to draft someone with the 25th pick in the draft. But do you think T. Higgins would fit on the Giants?
I certainly think so. I don't think he's going to the Giants. He's coming off of a great year. He's got a great quarterback like Joe Burrow. I don't think he's gonna get traded this offseason because he just has so much more room for improvement, especially after a breakout season like this last season. And going off of what you said, DJ Moore, the former Panthers wide receiver, I can see him fitting in with this offense for the New York Giants. Obviously, if they re-sign Danny Dimes, which is looking like near 100% chance of them doing so, I think he would fit right in because, DJ Moore, he's a great yards after catch type of guy. He catches the ball, he just takes off. So that's the kind of guy that Daniel Jones is going to need, especially with him not being one of the stronger quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I think T. Higgins doesn't really have much of a choice in the situation, to be honest. The Giants are going to have to trade their first-round pick for him, which is going to be the big thing they're going to give up. They can get 25-year-old proven wide receiver or a guy that's coming straight out of college, and it's a hit-or-miss situation, especially with the 25th pick. It seems like those is where a majority of the receivers go now in the NFL draft. But to stay in New York, are the Jets, are they looking to draft a receiver, draft a quarterback? Who's their top priority this year?
I mean, right now it's going to be a quarterback. I don't see them going with a quarterback in the draft, especially with what happened with Zach Wilson. Obviously, rumors have floated around with Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, Tom Brady before he announced his retirement. I don't see Jimmy Garoppolo being a great fit in New York, but Derek Carr definitely intrigues me. Obviously, he's on the older side, but I mean, he's a veteran quarterback who never really got it put together, mainly because of his lack of receiving core throughout the years. So I think Derek Carr would be a great fit in New York, especially with receivers like Eli Moore and receivers like, obviously, Garrett Wilson, who had a great rookie year this year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all you're saying. Obviously, I hope the Jets don't win the game this year. But that'll about wrap things up for our NFL segment. Don't go anywhere. Predictions from around the world of sports coming when we return.
Welcome back. We've got a lot going on around the world of sports, and we got some predictions to make. So first off, we got Chiefs and Eagles in the Super Bowl. Who do you see being the Super Bowl MVP this year?
I'm going to go with the dark horse. Travis Kelce is going to win the Super Bowl MVP for the Chiefs. I got him putting up 2 to 3 touchdowns in this game, definitely over 100 yards, 10-plus receptions. I think Patrick Mahomes' stat line is not going to show through, but I think that we said before the Chiefs are definitely going to win the game. But I do think Travis Kelce is going to be my Super Bowl MVP.
Okay, so you want to talk about a dark horse. I also have the Chiefs winning in the Super Bowl, but I'm going to give you someone that you probably didn't even think of. I'm going with Chris Jones for Super Bowl MVP. We saw defensive players winning in the past, specifically that comes to my mind, Von Miller with the Broncos. I mean, if he's able to get through that Eagles offensive line, if he's able to get to Jalen Hurts earlier on, I don't see a reason why Chris Jones won't be one of the top performers in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a long shot. Chris Jones obviously had a good game in the championship game, but I think the offense is just going to be way too high-powered. It's going to be a really high-scoring game. Obviously, I don't think Chris Jones is going to be able to catch Jalen Hurts because, unfortunately, I don't think he's that fast. But I think Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are going to tear up that Eagles defense.
Yeah, I think his brother Chandler definitely has the speed advantage. I mean, you saw it with that Patriots-Raiders game that we like to joke about a lot. So keeping with the NFL, I mean, we got some quarterbacks that are heating up in the trade rumors. We got Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr. Where do you think these two quarterbacks are going to end up by the end of the offseason?
As I said earlier, I think Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr both have the option to definitely go to Tampa. I think Derek Carr has also another opportunity. I think Derek Carr is probably one of the better quarterbacks that's going to hit the trade market overall. I think the Colts are a really good option for him. Obviously, they haven't decided on a head coach between guys like Jeff Saturday and Wink Martindale from my Giants. Unfortunately, don't want him to leave. But I think Derek Carr would definitely fit in Indy just for a 1 or 2 year bridge quarterback. But again, he's still young. He's only early 30s. He definitely has at least 6 or 7 years left of playing good quarterback.
So, I mean, with Garoppolo and Carr, they're two very similar quarterbacks in play style. Where do you see Jimmy Garoppolo landing this offseason?
I can see Jimmy Garoppolo playing a bridge quarterback for your New York Jets. He can definitely be there for 1 year, probably win 10 games because it's Jimmy Garoppolo and he finds a way to win.
He's him.
Yeah. So I just don't think the Jets are going to just be good in general. But Jimmy Garoppolo to the Jets, I can definitely see happening.
So moving on to a talented New York team, unlike my Jets, we have the New York Yankees. So
I thought you were going to say the Mets.
Finished with 99 wins this last season. So what do you think over under 100 wins for this New York team after the offseason moves they made?
I'm going to go with under, unfortunately. I think they're going to stay in the 90s, but I can see them winning 93 to 94 games this season.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree, unfortunately. I mean, we saw what improvements that teams like the Blue Jays made, teams like the Rays made, not teams like the Red Sox made because they just demolished their entire system this last offseason. But with the Rays and the Blue Jays improving and a lot of AL teams improving, I just don't see the Yankees going over 100 wins or even meeting that 100-win mark, but now moving into the NL East from the AL East. What do you think about the Mets? Do you think they're going over or under 100 wins this season?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the Mets are going to be over 100 wins this season. I think their offseason moves just fit their needs pretty much. The Yankees did not make enough moves. Seems like the Yankees just stayed the same. They didn't feel like improving this offseason. The Mets only got better, in my opinion, so I think they'll definitely be over 100 wins. And seems like the only teams that really made improvements, obviously we know the Braves in that division and the Marlins look like a good team going into this year. It's not like the Yankees. You got to play 4 good teams in our division, so I think the NL East is easier competition for the Mets.
Yeah, I do agree that the Mets have made big improvements, but I'm going to be honest with the improvements that the rest of the NL East made, and with the NL still being the stronger league in Major League Baseball, I'm going to go with under 100 wins. I'm probably looking in the 96 to 99 range. Obviously, 99 is just one away from 100, but with the Mets team right now compared to the rest of the National League, I'm going to go with under, but, I mean, still it's going to be really close to that 100-win mark, and I still think they're going to be first in the NL East. So now, moving into, we got soccer. Out in Saudi Arabia, Cristiano Ronaldo signed a 2-year deal with Al Nassr, the Saudi Arabian club. Do you see him at 37 years old retiring at 39 in Saudi Arabia, or do you see another season or two in him in a different country?
I think Ronaldo, unfortunately, is going to retire for many of the soccer fans. I think 39 is the point where you've made so much money in your career. He has a very young family I know of. I think it's just a perfect time, 39 years old, retire, enjoy the rest of your career. I don't see a reason for him playing 2 more years in a different country on top of it.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but at the same time, it's Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he's 37 years old, and he's still playing the best soccer he's been playing. He's like, soccer's version of LeBron James right now. I don't see LeBron actually retiring at 40 like he says he's going to. So I personally think Ronaldo is going to sign either an extension with his Saudi Arabian team, Al Nassr, or he's going to sign with a different club in a different country. Because once again, he's playing at the top of his game. We're still one of the best players in the entire world, and once again, at 37 years old, he's still doing all of this. It's really impressive. So now we're going to move into a sport that, it's kind of been a taboo topic recently on Rico and Hook. We're going to move into hockey. Who do you feel is winning the Stanley Cup this year?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, me neither, and that'll do it for our sports prediction segment. Don't click off. LeBron is nearing the NBA scoring record. Blockbuster trades are happening around the league, and Duke runs the state of North Carolina. This and more in our basketball segment when we come back.
And we're back. The NBA All-Star break is less than 2 weeks away, and a lot is going on in basketball. So first of all, big trade in the basketball world. Kyrie Irving went to the Mavericks after his recent trade request. What are your opinions on that trade, and who won the trade?
Well, I think the Nets easily won that trade, though neither team really came away with a huge package. Obviously, with the Mavericks getting Irving and Morris in this deal, they did send away Dinwiddie, a first round, a second-round pick, and Dorian Finney-Smith. So they're getting rid of a bit of cap space, but right now the cap space is looking about the same. So I think with the Nets getting rid of Kyrie Irving, they're not really, moving into a free agency move in 2023. I think they just want to get the awful, awful teammate that he is off the team and into a new place. And I think the Mavericks have now one of the best teams in the NBA, especially with, Kyrie at point guard, Luka at shooting guard, 2 great ball handlers, 2 great passers, and 2 great shooters. I mean, they both can really do it all. I just feel bad for the rest of the Mavericks team, the other 10 players on the team, because they're not seeing the ball. They're not touching the ball. It's basically just cardio running up and down the court for the rest of the 48 minutes because, once again, Luka and Kyrie are 2 ball-dominant players, and they're not passing the ball to these other guys on the Mavericks because, they're nobody's compared to them. But now, speaking of somebody who's really not a nobody, the consensus number 2 player of all time, LeBron James. He is nearing the scoring record set by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He is currently 36 points away at the time of this recording. Who knows? He's got 2 more games left. By the time this episode airs, he could be at the record now. So, what do you think about LeBron James? What do you think about his road to reaching this record so far?
We discussed before, if LeBron eventually does break this record, that he will probably be in greater debate the greatest basketball player of all time. And I don't think it won't be close anymore. I think it's about 50-50. Some people disagree, 60-40. Obviously, it's very close with Michael Jordan. But I do think once he breaks this record, it's going to almost solidify his number 1 spot, especially if he does play a few more years in the NBA.
I mean, yeah, it's LeBron. I mean, obviously, the scoring record is something huge. He's becoming number 1 all the time in regular season points scored. But at the same time, it's LeBron, so I'm really not surprised with anything he's doing nowadays. I mean, he's still one of the top players in the league at 38 years old. And since turning 38 years old, he's averaging nearly 35 points a game and almost a triple-double. So, I mean, he's just overall an amazing player. And once again, I'm just not surprised that he's nearing the scoring record. And once again, by the time of this release, probably breaking the scoring record. So now moving into, from one power forward over in Los Angeles to my favorite power forward in the league, Julius Randle of the New York Knicks, named an All-Star. Obviously, the Knicks have had a pretty decent season so far. They're at the 6th seed, so they are in a playoff spot. But, with his struggles last year, I'm just happy that Julius Randle is now an All-Star, redeeming himself. What do you think?
Yeah, it's Julius Randle, so I don't think it really means that much. Obviously, your favorite team makes it's like someone making on the Jets making the Pro Bowl. I mean, probably will never happen. So yeah, I guess as a Knicks fan, a player making the All-Star game, yeah, it's a big deal. But it's not like you guys are gonna win a championship anytime soon either. So yeah, I just didn't mean to completely ruin your teams. But
well, we're talking about the 6th seed in the East right now. They could bump up to, having 4 out of the 3 home games in a playoff series right now. I'm not saying they're going to win the championship this year because they're not. But, if you look at the trajectory of this team with Julius Randle coming off the books, Jalen Brunson coming off the books in a few years, they're going to have cap space if they don't re-sign them. And young players like R.J. Barrett, Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin, you really saying that they're not going to win a championship anytime soon?
I said
not
this
even
year.
in the next 10 years?
Said this year.
You said anytime soon, and they can rewind and watch that again.
You're probably right, and I'll stick to that statement when we come and record this 4 years from now when the Knicks still didn't win a Super Bowl.
Okay, so it's not the Super Bowl, Rico.
Yeah.
So keeping with the All-Star game, Steph Curry is going to miss the All-Star game, and he's going to miss the rest of February with a leg injury. We talked about Steph on the last episode, the greatest three-point shooter of all time. Do you feel he is the greatest point guard of all time, and do you have him in the top 10, maybe even top 5 players of all time?
Yeah, we discussed this earlier in a previous episode. Yeah, I do think he is right outside that top 5 players of all time. I would even put him in the top 5 in my opinion. When you're the greatest shooter of all time, how can you not be in the top 5 of the greatest basketball players ever? Yeah, that's just my opinion on Steph. Unfortunately, out with a leg injury, but he always somehow makes a comeback, especially when it's time for the playoffs. So.
Yeah, and obviously playing in a brand new era compared to, some of the other guys that are put in the point guard conversation like Allen Iverson or Magic Johnson. It's always hard to tell, if he's truly the best point guard of all time. But if you just look at his overall skill, he can miss a wide open 3 from anywhere on the court. So I personally think that he's the best point guard of all time. But once again, you can never really be 100% sure. And speaking about some of the best players in the league right now, you got Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo leading the MVP ladder. 3 European players right now. So who do you have as your end-of-season MVP for the NBA?
I think Joel Embiid's going to win the MVP. I think he's just been dominant at his position across the whole entire sport of basketball right now. And I think the 76ers are obviously struggling a little bit this year, but I think they're heading in the right direction. I think Embiid, he just takes over most of the games that the 76ers play pretty much, and he's just their best player overall. And when you're the best of your position, you'll win the MVP.
Yeah, so I'm going with Jokic on this one, though Embiid is an amazing player, can really do anything on the court, but anything Embiid can do, Jokic can really do better. He's one of the best passers in the league right now. He's top 3 in assists per game, even as a 7-foot center. The guy that people call an immobile 7-foot center, he's still top 3 in assists per game. He's up there in rebounds per game, I believe top 5. And right now he is second in the league in points per game. So, it's Jokic. We saw him win the last 2 MVPs. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for the 3P 3 years in a row because, just look at what he's doing. No player has ever done it before at his position, at his height. So I'm just really impressed with him. And now moving with a team that I've really been impressed with recently, my Duke Blue Devils, a huge rivalry win over the UNC Tar Heels, the most mid team in North Carolina, 63-57 at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Really got rid of the, all the talk that UNC fans were talking about last year with the 2 wins in Coach K's home in the Final Four and during the regular season. So once again, I just think Duke's running North Carolina State right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I just want you to read the script what you have written down after you put how Duke won.
We don't need to talk about
All
that. But, obviously, what do you think about this Duke team so far this year? Do you have them going far in March Madness?
Just because you're a fan of them, no. I really hope Duke probably loses in the first round of any type of playoff game. I hope they lose out for the rest of the season. But yeah, obviously we all know Duke. Yeah. We all know Duke is a really good team, and they're probably actually going to make it far in the playoffs, as it seems like they do pretty much every year. They're always in the conversation. Coach K, one of the best coaches ever in college basketball, so everybody knows about him, and yeah.
Yeah, so I think with this new team, with John Shire, I personally think they're going far in the playoffs. I could be biased, but, just look at this team. Derek Lively's the next Will Chamberlain. It's undeniable.
So that'll about wrap things up for our basketball segment. Don't go anywhere. We're going to wrap up our show with our news segment, The Rant, when we come back.
Welcome back. To wrap things up, we are pleased to be joined by our social media representative and recurring Rico understudy, Marisa Toulas.
I don't like that much.
Too bad. This, of course, is our newest segment, The Rant.
We are going to let off some steam talking about different topics that grind our gears from around the world of sports.
We're going to be polite and nice in this segment. Hopefully nobody's going too off the rails. Rico.
No promises.
Yeah, we're going to see about that. I had the pleasure of going first, and I'll be talking about the Dallas Cowboys and my hatred for them. Obviously, the Cowboys have not gotten the playoffs past, the divisional round in, 20-something years. Seems like the Giants always put up a good fight every year, but it's not about the Giants, about the Cowboys. They like to keep their traditions and how they're America's team, but for some reason they can't win a Super Bowl. Probably goes back to the 1970s when any of their current fans probably don't even care about them anymore. Probably switched to my Giants. But after the pleasure going first, Hook, what's your rant?
So I'm going to move into basketball with my favorite team, the New York Knicks. It's been a tough ride the past every season of their entire existence, but most notably just looking at their lack of getting a superstar right now, and that's kind of what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about their president of basketball operations, Leon Rose. He's just awful at training. He's awful at getting superstars. Just look what they did last offseason. They missed out on Donovan Mitchell. This trade deadline, they obviously missed out on Kyrie Irving, and now they're supposedly offering up to 3 first-round draft picks on OG Anunoby, who's a role player for the Toronto Raptors. He'd be a role player on any other team in the league, especially when we have a small forward in RJ Barrett. I just don't see why Leon Rose doesn't care about draft picks when they've gotten him so much success in the past. Obviously, look at players that they drafted that became legends in New York, players like Patrick Ewing, players like the first 4 years of Kristaps Porzingis. Just look at, how useful these draft picks are and how he's just willing to throw them all away at, once again, players like OG Anunoby, who is a role player for any other team in the league besides Toronto. So I just don't understand why Leon Rose, doesn't care about these picks, doesn't care about the assets he has, especially when it comes to going after a superstar, something we desperately need because, right now our best player is Julius Randle, and that is not a playoff contending team that can be led by Julius Randle. What was that?
Julius Randle, your favorite player?
Recently he's been far from it. I'm glad he's been stepping things up, but come on, you saw what he did last year, and he is not a superstar for this New York team. But, before I get a little bit more angry than I have been right now, I've been trying to keep it calm. Marissa, I'm going to throw it to you. You're going to finish this off.
So my topic is, unfortunately, the New York Yankees. I know we're all Yankee fans, but this is something that we all need to get off our chest. And it's that the Yankees need a shortstop. I'm not waiting for Volpe. I think we all agree here. I know, Jake, you're a little bit more on his side than me and Hook are, but I'm not for Volpe. I think the Yankees' biggest mistake in the last 5 years was not getting Trey Turner, and I live by that. I've been saying that since he had his breakout season. I've actually been saying that since he was on the Nationals, and he stole 40 bases a season. He would be great in New York. He's such a Yankee, clean-cut guy. They needed him. Last year they had their chance, or this past season, I should say, and they blew it. I'm not waiting for Volpe. You have all these guys that they want to bring up in the system, but it's not. You're the New York Yankees. You need a shortstop. You need someone who can hit 20 home runs. Trey Turner could hit a lot more home runs in Yankee Stadium, I think, than most stadiums, right? It's small. He can do it. I think he would steal a lot of bases. He keeps himself clean. He's everything the Yankees could want. I know he's pricey, but I mean, when you're paying $45 for chicken fingers, I think we can afford Trey Turner.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but are you done? You're good?
I think so. I'm sweating a little bit.
I mean, I guess it was good getting that all off our chest, and it was great being on the set, bringing you another episode of the #1 weekly sports talk show on Wayne Hills TV.
Make sure to tune in next week. I'm Marisa.
I'm Rico.
And I'm Hook. And this has been Rico and Hook.